Why has there been such a major surge in undocumented immigration at the southern border? You want to make sure you don't miss this one. There's definitely something very sinister going on behind the scenes. It's been a fact that ever since President Biden came into office, he undid everything that President Trump put in place to keep a lot of undocumented immigration on the other side of the border. What's happening now is anyone can come in, they can claim asylum, and then they can stay in the US until their court date to determine if they can stay indefinitely. And as expected, a lot of them probably won't show up. And even if they have to leave, if the receiving country decides they don't want to take them, they are staying. So, country A, that's where this undocumented immigrant comes from. Country A says, no, we don't want them. They're staying. So, we'll never know the truth of why this is happening. I mean, this is definitely not an accident. It's planned. It's been made to happen based on policies. So we're always going to get dissimulation from our public officials, from our politicians. We're never going to know the truth. Yet, if we look at the entire picture, we factor in the state of things in the world right now, we can get some major clues. And it's probably going to be right. There's many reasons why they're doing this. And we'll understand why there's been such a surge in undocumented immigration. Obviously, for the most of us, we're not really seeing any effects of it. We're fine. Life is as usual for us. But there's definitely going to be long-term impacts. There's going to be reasons why they're here, and they're going to change the direction of this nation for sure. I'm going to share with you 3 top reasons why this is going on. Number 1, labor for America. We have people coming from all over the world. This isn't what you typically think of when we talk about undocumented immigrants, right? Usually you're thinking Latin America, but no, they're coming from many different regions of the world. Africa, Asia, and of course Latin America. But lately, there's been a lot of talk about a lot of Chinese people crossing the border, undocumented. Now, different regions of the world bring different skills, right? Think of Switzerland. I'm just using that as an example. They are great at chocolate. They're great at watches. Obviously, we're not having a lot of Swiss people crossing the border undocumented. But what I want to say there is now we have many different skill sets available here in the US as they're crossing the border undocumented, and we're getting a mix of people from all over the world, understandably so, as they're telling each other, hey, it's so easy. You just cross the border, claim asylum, they'll let you stay in the US. They'll probably hook you up with a free room and food and take good care of you anyway. So what we're seeing in the world right now is we're moving towards tariffs, trade barriers, and understandably so. Because the truth is, a lot of the companies in China, they make some great products that have yet to hit the market. But if they do, I think they're going to put a lot of American businesses out of business. I'm going to use BYD cars, for example. And this backed by Warren Buffett, by the way. Smart man. Because if you look at what they're producing, oh, you're never going to want an American car again. Well, I mean, a lot of people are already driving Asian cars, Toyotas, Hondas. So this car, BYD, they make some great cars. Check out right here, Yangwang U8. And then they have the Yangwang U9. So you can see why we are going to need trade barriers, tariffs. And if that's the case, where we're not bringing anything over, then we're going to need to produce it over here. And most of the things right now are made from China. I don't care where you're watching this right now. Look at your surrounding. A majority of it is made from China. And because of the great powers competition that we're seeing right now, there is definitely an effort to try to bring back Made in America. We're going to have to see how that goes, of course. Yes, there are laws in place to prevent undocumented immigrants from working here in the US legally, but that's legally. There's nothing physically preventing someone from working here. So the law, it's a living, breathing document, is subject to change. It is subject to the whims of fellow man. That could easily change to allow a lot of the undocumented immigrants, I'm already thinking they're workers already. So there's nothing really preventing them from working. It just takes a change in the law and boom, they're working in the factories, they're working again in any industry that needs more labor, more skills. Number two, war. There's actually a very real scenario that may happen in our lifetimes where there's a conflict between superpower or superpowers. And the truth is they all have allies. They're going to drag others in, and it easily becomes World War III. That's pretty much how World War I and II happened. We do have a very small military right now, but we are very capable of expanding into a massive military. That's what happened in World War II. We always had a small military, and when World War II happened, we were able to expand and become a massive military superpower. Now, what does that all need? Manpower. Now, we have structures in place where we can have a draft, and we definitely have the reserves. But the truth is, the American people would not stomach a draft. Every politician would be out of their office immediately if a draft was implemented. And that's really where I believe a lot of the undocumented immigration comes in. There's definitely been whispers about having undocumented immigrants join the military. I think back when President Obama was president, there was talks about dreamers that were here in the US being able to serve and then get citizenship. So there's definitely that door available. And again, it's subject to law, which can instantly change. Think of the French Foreign Legion. They have a legion with foreigners in there. And if anything happens to them, they don't really get much political heat in their country back in France because these are foreigners and foreigners aren't voting in their country. So that's why the French has the French Foreign Legion. I'm going to stop right there, as war is never a very appealing topic to talk about. And in fact, some people cover their ears like, no, I don't want to hear about this. But war is the one thing that will have a major impact in our lives. Now, we in the US have this exorbitant privilege of being an ocean away from many of the superpowers. So we will probably never receive any physical damage in our homeland. Now, we will see a major change in life, a quality of life, the way of life. And as human beings, we have a major recency bias. Any change, any major change that happens to us, and we're not used to it, and we don't prepare for it, we are going to be ruined mentally, probably to major depression. So it is very important to talk about it and plan for it, whether you like the idea of war or not. I mean, who actually likes the idea of war? Nobody. But it's still something to prepare for, and that's something we can go over in a different episode. Number 3, real estate profits. This is what we want to focus on right here. Regardless of how we feel about undocumented immigrants, they're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. There's not going to be a mass deportation. That's not going to happen regardless of what anyone says. Because at the end of the day, if the other country doesn't want to take them back, they're here to stay. It's going to be a big political limbo right there. They're not going anywhere. There's a lot being done right now to help them adapt and fit in, help them transition. Undocumented immigrants, they can get healthcare, they can get driver's licenses, and the newly arrived ones, they are being housed in hotels. They pretty much have all the privileges that we have. That's what's going on. So they are going to fit in and assimilate into society. Now, guess what? That means they can also choose where they want to live. They can also likely buy a home. Now, the truth is a lot of them, or a majority of them, will probably be on government housing, whether that's Section 8 or a newly created program that is supposed to be limited in scope and budget, which of course has that mission creep, and they grow bigger and bigger and becomes permanent. That's how a lot of new programs get established. Oftentimes starting out telling people it is temporary and becomes permanent, but they're going to be competing with you on housing as well. They're going to squeeze the price in housing, even if they are getting government funding, because if building A is all occupied already, that only leaves building B, C. You get my point. So that still takes up space, even if they are being funded by the government, whether that's Section 8 or a new program. That takes inventory away from you. Now, I'm not trying to create competition here. I'm mainly sharing what is likely to happen, regardless of how you feel about this. I know this is very touchy, and you can feel to the right or to the left or be very inflamed. But if you've made it this far already, I think you can stomach this. And this is probably something I should have brought up way in the beginning, but you've passed the test and here you are, right? This is going to be an apartment owner's delight as they get on the payroll for these programs to house undocumented immigrants and pretty much be guaranteed payment from the government. It's a great deal, isn't it? So, unfortunately, it's not going to be mom and pop landlords initially, is my prediction. They usually start off with major entities, big corporations that have a lot of units on hand. Government admin, they like to work with a few entities because that's less administrative work. It's easier to work with a few. But of course, they're most likely going to be accused of being unfair, and then they're going to open it up to a lot of apartment owners, small mom and pop apartment owners. But they're really just going to get the crumbs, but that's still something better than nothing. Naturally, we're going to get more crowded, so it's going to lead to more development-friendly laws. Take a look at ADU laws. They're pretty much allowing you to turn a single-family home into a multifamily complex. You can build multiple units on your lot. And then even for apartments that already exist, you can now turn your garage into another unit. So it's definitely going to open up a lot more laws to make it easier to add more units, to build. It's going to be a developer's delight. Check out laws like AB 2334. They allow for unlimited density when building unit is focused at 80% of the area median income. And then AB 2097, there's a reduction in parking requirement if you're within half a mile from public transportation. That's really where a lot of the ADUs can replace a garage without having to find parking because it's within half a mile. And if you look everywhere, there's transportation within half a mile. So there's going to be more developer-friendly laws that are coming into place. Oh, another new one. I don't have the number on the top of my head, but I'm just going to go over it. It's allowing for any ADUs built, pretty much a second unit on the lot, second or third or beyond. It could be sold as a separate property. Of course, that's if the city wants to allow it, but that option is there. So overall, be ready to see more cities, more housing to be receiving government funding, thus making it such a more attractive investment. You are already seeing corporations buying up houses all across the country. Be ready for more government funding to house undocumented immigrants or a lot of the overall general population. Now, if you can receive guaranteed income from the government, doesn't that make it a very attractive investment? In fact, a lot of corporations are buying up single family homes. They're pretty much going to be some of the biggest landlords in America, these private entities, private capital, Blackstone, BlackRock, these big names that you've heard of. They are moving towards becoming the biggest landlords in the country if they're not already there. Now, you can't participate unless you have some real estate to offer up for rent and receive some of the government funding or the overall massive demand for housing that is still growing by the day. So what I'm trying to say here is it's still a very attractive proposition to own real estate because you have the potential to potentially receive government funding and also keep up with the market because there's such massive demand for housing. Now, we may see interest rates go up even further, but believe me, housing is not going to go down. There's still going to be massive profits that could be made as this is still a very much developing situation, but we can definitely see where the wind is blowing. Stay tuned for more episodes like this where I go over a lot of these untouched topics that no one wants to really touch up on because it's so sensitive, but I believe it is very important to go over as it's going to have a very major impact on all of us. Thank you for joining me today and making it this far for this episode of The Fruits of Empire, where I go over these conspiracy theories that I have about the surge in undocumented immigration.